Hello and happy MS Awareness Week. My name is Emily and I have lived with multiple sclerosis since the young age of 17. That was almost 19 years ago when I heard those fateful words, "You have MS." This week I'm sharing my experiences of my diagnosis journey, what my symptoms look like, pregnancy and MS, and more. Today I'm going to be sharing about how MS feels for me, the kind of symptoms that I've experienced. So MS is a chronic disease of the central nervous system, which affects our brain, spinal cord, nerves, optic nerves, which is essentially the control center of our entire body. So our symptoms can range from mobility challenges, muscle weakness, challenging time walking, to a lot of invisible symptoms like fatigue, cognitive challenges, bowel bladder issues, vision issues. So it can range. So with over 1 million people in the United States living with MS, we all experience MS a little different. So I'm going to share how MS feels for me. When I had my initial symptoms before my diagnosis, it included numbness and tingling, almost like when your arms fall asleep. Also weird electric zings when I bent my neck forward. I also experienced a lot of weakness in my legs, fatigue, and heat sensitivity. 4 years after my diagnosis, I started experiencing a really intense pain in the back of my right eye, which then led to blurriness, also known as optic neuritis. So in college, I lost my vision for about a month. Luckily, it did come back after doing a round of steroids, but definitely a really scary symptom at such a young age. A lot of my symptoms are invisible, which is kind of challenging because most people look at me and they just assume that I'm just a healthy individual, not knowing that I'm struggling with a lot of different things. Later in my mid-20s, I started experiencing cognitive challenges, having a hard time finding words, also known as aphasia. I'd have a word in my head, but I wouldn't be able to speak it. Or if I got really, really tired, I would stutter. And so that became kind of an annoying, frustrating symptom that often would be because of being tired or being stressed out or towards the end of the day. Most of my symptoms have happened on my right side, from my optic neuritis to weakness in my legs to something called spasticity or tightness or pain in our muscles. Later into my diagnosis, I then experienced new symptoms on a new side. Often we know if we're in the middle of a relapse, if something we're experiencing lasts longer than 24 hours. It's a pretty good indication that we might be having a relapse. And that was happening for me. Most of my symptoms happened on my right side, but this time I was having really weird itchiness on my left side, which then later showed that I had a new lesion on my spinal cord. But these are some of my symptoms. Like I said, majority of them invisible: vision issues, cognitive issues, fatigue, some muscle pain, some muscle weakness, things like that. But for the most part, I feel pretty good most days. And now that I'm pregnant, I really feel great, which is so cool and so crazy what pregnancy does with people living with MS, which I'll share more about tomorrow. But that's my own experience. I'd love to hear from you. Share below, what was your first symptom, or what's your main symptom that you experienced. It is really cool when we get to connect with others living with MS, and then we can feel like, okay, I'm not alone. All right, friends, use this week as an opportunity to educate, share awareness about multiple sclerosis.